came in because he is not suicidal and did not want to get shot and was confused, as I am told. Now, you're probably wondering why the father and the mother didn't speak out to assert his innocence. That would make sense, right? Why don't you come right out and dispute everything immediately? Well, interestingly enough, I'm told that it's because the feds told them that if they spoke out, their lives could be at risk. Like they needed to keep things private, and they convinced the family to go into witness protection. Like, your lives are in danger. You shouldn't say anything. Somebody could, just come back and try to harm you guys because of what your son did. You should go into witness protection and don't speak to anybody. Trust us, we're the feds, bro. And they agreed, of course, in the fog of it all. Why wouldn't you agree? But then, like any good, maybe conservative family, you start going, I don't really trust these feds. Like, I'm a little suspicious about the feds. Here's another point of interest, okay? His father had no idea that Tyler was gay.
The American public is currently observing one of the most highly debated cases in recent memory, involving a young individual facing serious allegations and a family profoundly seeking clarity amidst their loss, while a significant organization experiences internal disruption. Tyler Robinson's image has been prominently featured across all media outlets, yet his parents are asserting a contradictory narrative regarding the individual depicted. The person visible on screen may bear resemblance to their son, but they maintain it is not him, and they express having been marginalized and intimidated, with suggestions that public discourse could jeopardize their security. Concurrently, an alternative perspective emerges from Candace Owens, who, despite previous disagreements with the organization established by Charlie Kirk, now claims insight into the circumstances preceding his passing. She states that Charlie had reached a critical juncture, desiring autonomy from external influences and intending to advocate for his own principles, and merely 2 days afterward, he was deceased. This raises a pivotal inquiry. Was this a demonstration of judicial efficiency or a narrative strategically constructed to obscure comprehensive public understanding? We will meticulously examine this situation segment by segment. For those interested in following each development, each new piece of information, and each unresolved issue, we encourage subscribing to my channel, as transparency will inevitably emerge. On the day in question, disorder rapidly ensued when Charlie Kirk, an individual whose influence extended across educational institutions and political spheres, was involved in a public incident. The assembly dispersed, media coverage intensified, and the country called for explanations. Very quickly, inquiries transformed into allegations regarding the individual's identity, TK's. Motivations, and how such a visible figure could be exposed in a moment of vulnerability. Merely 33 hours later, Tyler Robinson was identified as the individual facing allegations, with his name and likeness disseminated nationwide before the public could fully comprehend the situation. A young man accused of a serious allegation, thrust into visibility under intense national scrutiny. However, from the outset, certain aspects seemed inconsistent. Was he genuinely responsible or merely a convenient focus for public attention? The rapidity of the apprehension, inconsistencies in the proof, and the quietness of those familiar with him have all fostered skepticism. As the public narrative advanced more swiftly than factual details, it became evident that the official account was orderly, perhaps excessively so, yet the lingering uncertainties have only amplified. With Candace Owens disclosing alleged final statements from Kirk, the sequence of events appears less like a straightforward legal process and more like an incomplete puzzle. While the public was informed of a young man allegedly transformed into an individual facing accusations, his family discreetly contested this portrayal. Accounts from reliable sources indicated a notable assertion. The individual captured in surveillance footage merely resembled Tyler Robinson, but was not actually him. Initially, these reservations were voiced softly, but they soon ceased entirely. His parents, previously prepared to support him, became uncharacteristically silent, avoiding media appearances, interviews, and any personal declarations. Instead, a pervasive quietness prevailed, with insinuations that governmental authorities coerced the family into silence, not for truthful purposes, but for their protection, potentially even implying that public statements could endanger them, with references to witness protection emerging in private discussions. For many, this silence is more telling than any words, prompting reflection on a system that restricts grieving parents from expressing their perspective, and a justice mechanism that implies safety lies in obscurity. Regardless of the rationale, fear tactics, or survival, Tyler Robinson's parents have been effectively muted, intensifying doubts about who gains from their quietness. Early reports asserted that Tyler Robinson had admitted guilt, presenting the matter as resolved, with the accused accepting responsibility and the system functioning as intended. However, upon closer inspection, this assertion weakens, as Tyler never publicly confessed or made a formal admission in judicial settings, nor is there a signed document acknowledging fault. Instead, legal representatives highlighted select text messages from a device attributed to him, interpreting them as an admission, yet digital communications can be misleading, potentially taken out of context, misunderstood, or even manipulated given technological vulnerabilities. Defense lawyers have questioned the integrity of these messages, suggesting omissions, deletions, or alterations, revealing that the prosecution's primary evidence is not a physical biological material linking him to the incident or clear visual identification, but rather disputed digital texts, raising concerns about their sufficiency in determining outcomes in such a significant matter involving individual liberty and public tragedy, potentially indicating a superficially complete narrative concealing underlying inconsistencies. Just as the situation seemed to stabilize, another voice intervened from someone acquainted with Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens, who in a forceful declaration claimed that 48 hours prior to his Charlie informed associates, supporters, and a religious leader that he was abandoning the pro-Israel position central to his political identity, citing pressure from influential entities and a desire to redirect his messaging, alongside plans to reintegrate her publicly, symbolizing a shift in direction for Turning Point USA, followed by his within 2 days. Owens presented this not as conjecture but as a direct challenge, daring the organization to refute her, leaving no ambiguity, and framing it as a decisive assertion that either she is inaccurate or her account is precise, prompting questions about undisclosed secrets, evolving alliances, or ideological changes that might have prompted opposition. To grasp the case's significance, the chronology must be traced step by step, starting not with the tragic incident but with prior decisions and statements. In the days leading to September 10th, Kirk participated in private meetings with supporters that reportedly left him disturbed, and 48 hours before his death, Owens alleges he decided to cease his pro-Israel stance as demanded by major benefactors and sought her public return as evidence of his independence. Then on the day of the incident, during a public appearance at Utah Valley University, Kirk was involved in a triggering chaos, with suspect images circulating within hours and Tyler Robinson's name released 72 hours later. A 22-year-old with no prior legal issues, arrested and labeled a political figure. Behind the scenes, his family contended the surveillance images only resembled their son, denied any confession, and upon attempting to speak, faced alleged suppression by federal agents warning that silence ensured safety. Weeks later, Owens released her notable account, linking Kirk's to his final decisions, creating a one-week timeline filled with a loss of life, a legal proceeding, and silenced relatives, generating more questions than answers. When legal authorities outlined their case against Tyler Robinson, the evidence seemed straightforward superficially, but scrutiny reveals vulnerabilities. The firearm allegedly used has questionable handling records, uncertain recovery details, and no definitive connection to Robinson. DNA analyses remain inconclusive publicly. Surveillance footage is blurry and unverified, and digital evidence like texts and phone records may be contextually misinterpreted or altered, according to experts, highlighting that data's reliability depends on control, raising doubts about its adequacy for a conviction, and suggesting potential breakdowns upon thorough examination. Beyond suspects and evidence, affected families endure shadowed grief and unaddressed queries. Charlie Kirk's family has shown little public action post-tragedy, with no demands for answers or independent investigations, arousing curiosity about whether this stems from mourning or other factors. While Tyler Robinson's family is stigmatized yet insists on misidentification, their voice is suppressed whether by choice, apprehension, or coercion, leaving them accused and defenseless. And Turning Point USA itself faces scrutiny over finances, donors, and pre-death events, deepening unease about whether the case involves broader implications, meaning truth's emergence could reshape the narrative and influencing factors, implying dual justice failures if Robinson is innocent for Kirk's loss and Robinson's branding, and if Owens is correct, revealing influences and silenced voices, with two families bearing immense burdens, one mourning in uncertainty, the other struggling for audience amid judgment. and an organization and nation questioning realities as truth, though delayed, will eventually surface, prompting readiness for its implications. We will persist in monitoring all updates, disclosures, and unresolved aspects. Subscribing is recommended for ongoing coverage, as this narrative remains active and silence is temporary.